Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Steve here, and welcome to this OddsMonkey webinar series. And this one's all about accumulators and how to make money from accas, which is also the other name for accumulators, or one of many names as it happens. So first of all, thanks very much for attending. The first question really comes into what is an Acca? Well, Acca stands for as a shortened version for accumulator, and in betting terms, what you're going to experience within OddsMonkey and match betting is an accumulator is any bet involving sort of two or more selections. It can sometimes be referred to as a multiple, as in multiple selections, but I've got a little slide on that in a moment to show you as well. But when it comes to betting on football or sports in general, most people bet on what are known as singles. So let's say, for example, you back Liverpool to win a football match. Then if Liverpool win, you win your bet. If they lose or draw, you lose your bet. The result of that one match affects whether you win or lose. It all rests on a single outcome, hence a single. Now, when you start adding another selection onto the bet slip, then you need all the outcomes to happen. I'll be going through this sort of in a practical sense. I'll show you on the screen, probably on Paddy Power, and I'll go through a practical example and show you what happens as you add multiple additional selections to a bet slip, and then going through to actually using that in conjunction with the OddsMonkey software. So, for example, a double is two selections, and let's say you've put Liverpool to win their football match, and then you've also got Southampton in a football match, and you put Southampton to win their match. If you place that as a double, you place both selections, you now need both Liverpool and Southampton to win their matches. Otherwise, you lose your bet at the bookmaker. So that's where it starts to change, and not necessarily get any more complicated. It's quite a simple concept, but when you're first starting out, you might just need to do a few and watch a few videos and reread the guides just to get your head around it. The terminology changes as you go through into different multiples, different numbers of selections on a bet slip. So if I just click onto the next slide, we can see these are commonly referred to terms. So when you have one selection on a bet slip, as we've said, that's known as a single. When you have two on a bet slip, that tends to be known as a double. When you have three, it's a treble. Now, when you get into 4, 5, or anything going further up, depending on the bookmaker, you may see different terminology. You may see accumulator, you may see Acca, or fourfold. The 4 just refers to the fact that there are 4 selections. You may see it listed as a multiple. You may see it listed as a combi bet, a combination, or a combo, which is also another abbreviation for combination. But different bookmakers display different terminology. I think I've pretty much covered all of them there, unless there's one that I've missed. But that's tend to be what you find across the many different bookmakers who you can place these type of bets with. Now, that goes up to 4 and 5 selections. I've stopped there because the vast majority of bookmaker offers, which we're hopefully going to make some money from, then the vast majority of selections that you will have on your betting slips will be in this range. So between 1 and 5 selections. But for accumulators, you're either going to be placing doubles, trebles, a fourfold or a fivefold. If there were 6 selections, they would have the same ones, but it would be a 6-fold, sevenfold. You've got the gist. It just goes on. It just indicates how many selections there are. But the vast majority of offers, the vast majority of opportunities to make money for us from accumulators, from accas, come from this sort of range. So we'll then move on and look at the different types in a minute. But the first question is, how do we make money from accumulator bets with match betting? Well, a bit like most things with match betting, we take advantage of bookmakers' promotional offers. So the first time that you're going to experience or come across an accumulator, or probably have the opportunity to use any of the sort of the Acca software at OddsMonkey is when you're doing some of the sign-up offers. So some of the sign-up offers on the site are linked directly to having to place an accumulator bet. So those are the first ones that you go through. Once you've got through all your welcome offers, the same as everything else with match betting, you know, the welcome offers are very much just the tip of the iceberg. They're very much just the beginning of the earning potential from all the bookmaker accounts that you now have open. Once you get through that, there are then a great deal of ongoing regular bookmaker promotional offers relating to accumulator bets. And a lot of these are known as Acca insurance. So the bookmaker offer you insurance if one of your leg loses. So just for example, in usual circumstances, let's say we've put 5 selections into our bet slip. Again, I'll do a practical example of this in a short while. Let's say we put 5 selections into our bet slip. So we've got 5 different football teams and we need all 5 teams to win our money. Well, if 4 of the teams won and 1 of the teams didn't win, then you would lose your money. You know, that's the way it's always worked until online bookmaking became a thing and bookmakers competed and offering promotions against one another became sort of so competitive. Well, thanks to the Acca insurance, you can get your stake refunded as a free bet at lots of bookmakers if only 1 team lets you down. So if you get 4 winners, you've got 5 selections and 4 teams win and 1 team doesn't, quite a lot of the bookmakers will then give you your stake back as a free bet. And thanks to some sort of clever maths in the background, we're able to turn an accumulator into a match betting opportunity and place the bet of the bookmaker and then lay it off at the exchange. So it may seem a little bit daunting at first, but if you just break it down into its little constituent parts, and I'll go through practical examples, it's effectively like any other match betting offer. You're backing something and then you're going to be laying the opposite side. So let's crack on and have a look. So the different types of accumulators available, there are 4. Lay sequential lock-in, lay at start, and no lay. So if we work from left to right, those are sort of that's the sort of progression that most people take through their sort of journey with accas if they get fully into accas. So the 2 at the end, lay at start and no lay, they're more advanced. They carry a little bit more risk sort of up front financially. They work perfectly fine in terms of a money-making opportunity. I tend to do most of mine as no lay accumulators nowadays. However, when you're starting out, which is what this is aimed at, and we're going to be looking at lay sequential, and we'll try and get onto lay sequential lock-in as well. Hopefully we've got time for both of those just to run through. But these are the ones that will allow you to open the bookmaker account. These are the ones that will allow you to then sort of move into making regular profits from accumulators with the least risk and the sort of smoothest ride into the journey of them, basically. And if we were to go and do these manually, it would be, you know, a heck of a faff. But thanks to the Acca tools at OddsMonkey, we can do it easy. So there are 2 Acca tools at OddsMonkey. We have the Acca Finder and we have the Acca Builder. So it's a case of finding whichever one works best for you, whichever one you find sort of the most, well, whichever fits your style best. So with the Acca Finder, you tend to get, and we'll look at both of these, you tend to get a sort of predefined, here's an accumulator ready to go, and it's got a list of matches, and that's you, off you go, and you do that accumulator. With the Acca Builder, as the name suggests, and all the nice little Lego blocks in there, you can look at the accumulator that has been presented to you, and if you are not happy with a particular selection, now it's not so much that you don't think a team will win, etc., although it can be that. It may be that the time and date of a particular fixture doesn't quite fit in with you, then you can swap one match out and replace it with another. And we'll have a look at that again in detail, and we'll go through it. So without any further ado, let's get onto the nitty gritty and get onto the software, shall we? So when you're within OddsMonkey, you can find the accumulator software. So, well, as I first mentioned, if you just go to new account offers, the first ones that you're going to find and sort of come across will be these sort of accumulator offers down here. And if you go through these and follow the guides line by line, you won't go wrong. And make sure you read the Acca associated Acca guides as well. But these generally, they're all lay sequential, and that's the first sort of stepping stone most take. So in the actual software itself, if you go to the accumulator, we can see we've got the Acca finder, and then we have the Acca builder. Again, we're not going to touch on the no lay or lay at start today because we're going to be pushed for time as it is, but we may do an advanced one, you know, if there's enough demand later on. Lay sequential lock-in, these are the two which we'll take a look at. So if I open up the Acca finder, first of all, I'll just open it in a new tab, and I'll get the Acca builder in another tab as well, just so you can see the sort of physical differences between the two. So a bit like the first time you ever open the odds matcher, don't be overawed. There's quite a bit of information on there, but don't be sort of overawed with that. What happens with an accumulator bet is when we're doing lay sequential, what that sequential bit refers to is the matches are all played sequentially, i.e. they're not running at the same time. So you're not going to have 4 or 5 fixtures which all kick off on a Saturday at 3 p.m. All the matches are going to flow one after the other, with it, you know, there could be an hour in between one of the matches, or there could be a day in between one of the matches. So they're all sequential, one follows the other. And that's because what we're going to do once we get into it is we're going to place the bet at the bookmaker, and then we're going to go and place a lay bet against the very first match at the exchange. And depending on the result of that match, we may or may not have to then place a lay bet on the next sort of match in the sequence. And if we have a look at the Acca builder, as I mentioned Paddy Power, so I'm just going to pop Paddy Power on from the drop down, so you can see all of these bookmakers here. I mean, the Acca matcher is a little bit sparse today because we've got an international football break at the minute, so the 32 red one doesn't have anything in today. But if we go down to Paddy Power, tends to be a decent one. We can see it comes up, and again, quite a bit of information. I'll run you through this in a moment, and then we can see we've got this is the main bit that we're interested in. We've got the date and the time, what the football match is, what the league is in, what the back odds are, what the lay odds are, what the lay stake required is, and the exchange to place that at, and that's currently down as Betfair. For the purposes of today's example, I'm going to fix my, I think I'll fix the exchange maybe to Smarkets, just to help with the, when I go through a little bit of the maths later on, because at Smarkets you can have your 0% commission, so it just helps simplify that a little bit. Back onto the Acca finder, if I were to, again, from the drop-down menu, you can see all the same bookmakers, and you can see all where it says insurance. These are all the bookies that have insurance offers. And if I just find Paddy Power again, now it's brought up a Paddy Power selection. So I'm just going to open the very first one on the list. And just a slightly different format. What you can do with here, if I work sort of from top down, as it were, because we may as well sort of run with this at present. It puts in the date and the time that you're obviously doing it. You could add any further text that you wish in there if there's anything in particular you want to, and then you can save that accumulator as well and get to the bottom. Every accumulator offer has their own particular terms. So Paddy Power is one of the easiest sort of reload offers to get started with. And the principles for this, doing a lay sequential that we'll look at now, is the same as when you're doing, you know, your lay sequential welcome offer. So what I'll do is I'll just get a little highlight tool on the screen. We'll start off at the bottom. By default, when you're in the Acca finder and you open one of these up, we can see down in the bottom here, we've got 4 different options we can tick. We've got lay sequential, we've got lay at start, we've got lock-in, which is the lay sequential lock-in, and we've got a lay sequential free bet. The free bet is basically sometimes you will receive a free bet from a bookmaker, and that has to be used on a accumulator. You know, you can't use it on just a single selection. So then you could come into someone like this and select the free bet option. I'll just get rid of that highlight. Okie doke. So first things first, most important bit is when you're looking at placing an accumulator, because we're going to be going down and laying each match in turn, you need to check the date and times that are first listed. So we can see the first game here kicks off today at 3 p.m. and then the next one kicks off at 7:45 tomorrow evening, and then the next one's at 3 p.m. on Saturday, and then the final match, the 4th match here, is at 7:45 on Saturday evening. So just remember that you're going to lay against this first match, and then depending on the result, you may or may not have to lay against the second match, and depending on that result, you may or may not have to lay against the third match. You need to make sure that you are going to be available, because what you don't want to do is forget to lay one of these. You need to make sure, if you're committing to laying, that you make sure you get the matches laid. Otherwise, you could end up either with a really nice extra boost of a profit, or a loss, a bad loss that you don't really want. So let's just have a look at the terms. So Paddy Power, they will give you money back as a free bet if one of your 4+ accas lets you down, and it applies to all sports and markets excluding horse racing, and it's a maximum of a £10 free bet per day. Yes, you could do 7 of these per week, and then it's a minimum odds of 1 to 5, which is 1.2 in decimals. So the Acca software, make sure when you're looking at this, you see in red as well, it says no minimum odds of 1.2 per leg. Always make sure that you're getting those minimum turns. So the Acca software itself, the whole point of this is actively scanning the bookmakers and bringing you back selections which are applicable to the terms, because in the back end, all the terms are sort of entered in the database. So if we look down the list here, we can see that the back odds for each, so this is the odds of the bookmaker, the back odds are 1.2, 1.2, 2.45 and 1.22. So they're all above the minimum required. However, it is perfectly possible for you to pop over to the bookmaker, and by the time you've added all of these selections into, say, the bet slip, one of the odds might have updated and perhaps it's gone down to 1.19, in which case, you wouldn't qualify. So it's very rarely may that happen, but just make sure you're always, before you click the place bet button at the bookie, make sure that everything sort of marries up to here as you see it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to attempt this Paddy Power offer. So if I work across the left to right, I'll get the highlight tool ready again. So the very first match we're going to find, it kicks off today at 3 p.m. Here you can sort of open adjust the date and the time, although you don't need to do that because that is the correct date and time. But I don't know if a match got suspended for some reason and then wasn't kicking off for a couple of hours later. You could always update the time. Going across onto the event, that just tells you who the match is between. So this is Armenia under-21s versus Serbia under-21s. It tells you the bet that you're needing to place. So it says A, and that's A for away. That's for the away team. So the team we're looking to back in this selection is Serbia, because Armenia are at home versus Serbia. If you look from the drop down, you've got home, draw, and away. So it's A for away. We have let's get the highlight tool already again. We have the back odds, 1.2. That's what they are at the bookmaker. The lay odds, that's what they are at the exchange. The exchange is Smarkets. The com is commission. So we've got 0% commission because we're placing bets using, we use the odds matcher and the OddsMonkey deal to get the 0% there. It tells you the stake. This is the lay stake required at the exchange. And then that's the liability. That's, you know, how much you have at risk at the exchange. So in this scenario, it'd be £2.31. This little this little checkbox, once you've got your bet placed at the bookie, which you make sure you do first, once you place your lay stake at the exchange, this little tick box is just a little aid memoir just for you, just to tick, just to know that you, yes, I did do that. And we're going to work through to there, and then I'll show you what to do next. So let me clear these off the screen. So we're going to pop over to Paddy Power. I'm going to find all of these matches and find the selections. So we've got Serbia, under 21s away. We've got Croatia away at Cyprus, because again, it's A for away. We've got H for home, so we've got Barrow, and then we have Austria away at the Faroe Islands. So let's go to Paddy Power. Let's go to football. And I'll just have a scroll down to see if I can see the first one, which no, I can't. So I shall go to competitions. You can obviously search for these as well. I'm just hoping that because it's because the match is kicking off today, I was just hoping that I'll be able to find it straight off the bat. So just let me keep searching for under 21. There we are. Saves me spending too long looking for it. So there's the first selection. We can see we have, just get the highlight tool on it for you. We can see we have Armenia versus Serbia, and over at the right hand side it says 1.2, and that's the away odd there. So I'm going to click that. That's added Serbia to the bet slip. Pop back over here. We now have, and if you, so useful tip actually, if you highlight just put your mouse over a match, it brings up the competition in which they are playing. So we can see that that's the FIFA World Cup European qualifiers, as is that one. So I'm just going to pop back over there. I'm going to go back to the competitions. And FIFA World Cup qualifiers Europe. So we have Cyprus v Croatia, A for Croatia, and that's 1.2, which again, all the time, I'm just checking 1.2, 1.2, they correspond. I'm just going to jump ahead and put it doesn't matter which order you put them in, as long as you put them all in. Faroe Islands versus Austria. I'm just going to see if I can find that a bit further down the list, which I can, which is there. We've got Austria away, 1.22. And then finally, the other one was in the EFL League 2, which we have English League 2, and we have Barrow versus Leyton Orient, and I believe it was Barrow. Yeah, H for home for Barrow, 2.45, and then we can see 2.45. So now here on the right hand side, we've got all these sort of singles. You can see it says singles at the top there, just highlighted it. What you can also see is down here, it is now called an accumulator. You know, it's called a multiple and an accumulator. So that, going back to that slide earlier, you know, these are the terminologies that you begin to see. And it says here, made of one bet. So all we're going to do is pop the stake in there, and I'll do this actual bet because this is something which I would do anyway. Stick £10 in there, click place bets, and that bet is now live. If I look in the bet receipt, you can see that those are the selections, and all of the odds were correct as per the software. So we know we've got the correct bets in there. So that's us done. That's how simple it is. That's the accumulator bet placed at the bookmaker. Now we need to work down this line by line. So the first thing we need to do is to go to Smarkets and lay against the first selection. So each one of these football matches, we call them sort of legs. So they're commonly known as, because that's the terminology the bookies use as well. So you can note here it says minimum odds of per leg of 1.2. So each one of these is known as a leg. So this is leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, leg 4. So the first leg, we're going to go and lay against the selection which we had in it. So within our accumulator bet at Paddy Power, we backed Serbia under 21 to win their match. So we're going to go to Smarkets, we're going to find Serbia under 21, and we're going to lay those. Hopefully the lay odds will be 1.3. If they've changed, no problem, we'll come back and update it on here. So let's pop Serbia under 21 in there. There we go. And we can see that Serbia under 21 here, the lay odds are always on the right hand column. are 1.3, which is what we expect to see. So I'm going to click that to place the lay stake there. I need to pop back and get the lay stake from the Acca finder. So the lay stake, the advised lay stake is £7.71p. I'm going to pop that in there. It tells me in two places. So firstly, if I just clear them and do a couple more highlights, it tells me my liability in the top right corner. It tells me my liability is £2.31. It also tells you what your liability were down on the bet slip down here, which is also £2.31. So that corresponds to the liability on here, £2.31. So these are all little sort of ready reckoners, things we can do as we're going along. Am I doing it correctly? Well, yeah, because you've put the correct stake, recommended stake in, and you've seen the what the liability would be. Don't worry if it's 1 or 2 pence out. You know, rounding errors do occur, obviously, but yeah, that's absolutely bang on what we expect to see. So I'm just going to confirm this bet, and that bet is now live. You can see that that has gone into the market, and if Armenia win or it's a draw, I will make £7.71 at the exchange. If not, I'll lose £2.31 at the exchange. That's my liability. So from here, how does this sort of potentially make money? So the next thing we're going to do is on here, I'm going to tick the lay box to say that I've laid it. Then what you want to do is go to the bottom right corner. There's a save button. Make sure you save this to your accumulators within the OddsMonkey software. Very important. So I've now saved that. What that now means is, because we don't need to do anything now until this football match is finished. And once we know the result of the football match, that then determines whether we need to pop onto the next match and place another lay bet or not. So if I were to come out of here, for example, you know, and I'm looking at some other offers, and then I know I've made a note that when the match is about to sort of finish or get underway, I could then come in later and go, okay, let's have a look at it. So if I go back to the Acca finder from scratch, you can see at the top, okay, I'll just get the highlight on it. It's a little button there, probably may have been slightly hidden before or not noticed. Click my accas. We'll see there's lots of stuff in here, but if I go down to the latest one, that's our selection. You know, Armenia, Cyprus, Barrow, and we've got Austrian in there as well. So I can just click this to open it up. What some people like to do, which is probably worth sort of pointing out actually, is once you've placed the bet at the bookmaker and you've saved it, and you place your lay stake as well. If you save it and then pop in here, there's a little option here to send email alerts. So if you tick that and then save it again, it basically does what you might think it suggests it will do. So it will then send you an email to remind you, hey, don't forget there's another match coming up. You know, the next leg is going to kick off. Don't forget to place your lay stake. So that can be quite handy. Whatever you do, just don't forget that you've got an Acca running, as it were. So now we've got our accumulator running. Obviously, what I can't do is sort of bend time and go into the future. So we don't know the result of this, but we can play around with different permutations. You know, we could do our what ifs on it. So let's say that this match this afternoon finishes, and the outcome. This is the only bit we've not done yet. So the outcome. Did Serbia win their match? So did your selection win? So did Serbia win? If they did, you click the green W. If they don't win, if Armenia win or it's a draw, so i.e. your bet didn't win, your selection didn't win, you would click the red L. So if Serbia win, we would click the W, and it updates, and you can see that that line has gone to green, which means it's done, it's complete. And we're now, same as any sort of other guide, you're basically going to follow it line by line, sort of downward. So we're now on to the next match, which is Cyprus v Croatia. We can see the lay odds are 1.28 at markets. It's advised us of a lay stake to use on that against that selection, our selection being the away team, Croatia. And you would then follow the same process. Obviously, I'm not going to place a stake because I don't need to at this stage, but I just find the Croatian match there. I can see the lay odds there, 1.28. Go back here, 1.28. Are they correct? Yes, they are. The lay stake would be here, £10, 3 pence. Pop that in. Tells me my liability will be £2.81. Liability there is £2.81. So I would then place the lay stake, tick it to say that I've done it, and then save it down there again. Now, if I undo this, the sort of best case scenario that we would like when we're doing a lay sequential is that the very first selection that we place, they don't win the match. So if Serbia don't win the match, we click the L, and then that is all we have to do for that accumulator. So it says a leg has lost, so you should stop laying. That is the end of it. We don't need to do any more. Your qualifying loss is £2.29 loss, and if no more lose, you will gain a £10 free bet. So let's just work through that. So the whole premise of this Paddy Power offer was if you place a bet on 4 teams and 3 of the teams win but 1 of the team don't, then you will get your money back as a free bet. So in this scenario with just a lay sequential, we're looking for 1 of the teams to not win and the other 3 selections to win. So if we go through the rest of the matches as they happen, and let's say Croatia beat Cyprus, and let's say that Barrow beat Leyton Orient, and let's say that Austria beat the Faroe Islands. What you'll then see when I click this in a minute, down here, we'll then actually see where the profit's coming in. So your qualifying profit is still, your qualifying loss is still £2.29, but you have now gained a £10 free bet. So let me clear these little drawings off. And it doesn't matter which way around that happens, whether the first one, if I undo this just to sort of go back, and I won't spend too much longer on this, and I'll get into the lay sequential lock-in, which will be quite exciting for many of you, I'm sure. But let's say that Serbia did win, because what you've got here is you've got some very strong favourites. 1.2, the odds are very low. So Serbia are very likely to win. Croatia are very likely to win away at Cyprus. Barrow at home against Leyton Orient, they're over even, so not quite as likely. So perhaps this would be a more realistic one that they don't win. And then Austria are very strong favourites to win away at the Faroe Islands. And let's say they win as well. Again, it's saying you've lost £2.29 on the qualifying loss, and you've got a £10 free bet. So if I work this back, in this scenario, we have, I'll get a calculator on the screen actually. So in this scenario, at the bookmaker, we lost £10 because not all of our selections won. So at the bookmaker, we are minus £10. Okay, that's for £10 down. We've lost that £10 at Paddy Power because one of the selections didn't win. So that £10 cash has gone. At the exchange, we laid against Serbia winning. So we had a liability of 231, but Serbia did win. So we lost £2.31 there. We then laid against Croatia for £2.81 liability, the next line down. And then finally, the next one, it told us to lay £12.83 against Barrow, and the liability there was £20.27. In that scenario, Barrow didn't win, so we were correct. So we then win our lay stake less any commission, which we pay to the exchange, but because it's markets, we don't pay any commission, which is great. So plus £12.83 gives us a qualifying loss of £2.29, which corresponds to the amount in here. So that's where that figure has come from. We will now, say if Austria beat the Faroe Islands, we'll then receive a £10 free bet. From the £10 free bet, we expect to make a profit of around £8, so plus £8. So overall, we would make a profit there of £5.71. Looking over on the, and don't worry, I'll be having a Q&A at the end of this session. So, any questions that may be popping up, make sure you pop them in the chat and we'll try and pick them up at the end. Moving on to sort of the Acca builder, just have a quick look at that using the same sort of method. And I won't going to go through and place another full accumulator on that, but I will do a walkthrough of the Acca builder, Acca Finder using the lay sequential lock-in method, because that method that I've just shown you, that's the method that you'll use for the welcome offers. And you will then, you're guaranteed with the welcome offers, for example, if you had that £2.29 loss on a welcome offer, you're then guaranteed to get a £10 or a £15 or £20 free bet, whatever the offer is. So you're guaranteed to get a free bet. Obviously on that one, you're not guaranteed to get the free bet because you can't guarantee which 3 teams will win or lose. So it's obviously not quite as generous as the welcome offers. However, when I go through the lock-in method in a minute, I will show you by using pretty much the same method how we can make a guaranteed profit every time we do one of these insurance offers. So you can really start to add up to quite a sizable sort of chunk of change each month. So moving on to the Acca builder, which I might just switch to another and switch back to Paddy just to refresh it, because it was a little while since we were here, just to make sure we're what we've got. So again, what we've got here, I'll get the highlight tool ready. We've got the offer, which is using Paddy Power. It's a 4-fold, which is the default for their offer. Again, you can see all the terms here. I'm just highlighting in the middle now. They're exactly the same terms as you saw over on the Acca Finder. We can see here we've got the exchanges listed. So if you wish, like I mentioned, you can untick perhaps the exchanges which you don't wish to use. And then on here, there's a big update button. So I'm just going to click that. And that will then bring back accumulators only with SmartKit. But you can add in or remove exchanges as you see fit. Okay. Just get back the highlight tool back. Minimum odds 1.2. Maximum odds, there aren't actually maximum odds for the offer. These are just the maximum odds that sort of are put in the back end as default, because what you want when you're doing these type of offers, you want to have, because you need all of the teams to win bar one for you to get your money back as a free bet, you need it to have a good chance, or those teams have a good chance of winning. And the odds are basically an indicator of the probability or the likelihood of a team winning. So by keeping the odds fairly low, at low range, then you're increasing the chance that the vast majority of the teams on a coupon will win. We've then got a time sort of slider. It's looking from now to 14 days ahead. So if you know that you need to squeeze it all in within the next 2 days, 3 days, or whatever it may be, you can use the slider appropriately. The back state, again, this is all default to the offer. So £10 is the maximum refund for this particular offer. So you can see that £10 is the maximum bonus. The retention percentage, all we're talking about there, 80%, is when we have a £10 free bet, £10 bonus, £10 free bet at Paddy Power, we expect to turn that into £8 of cash. So we expect to retain 80% of that £10 stake. Therefore, the bonus, the free bet, is worth £8 to us. I'll clear some of these off. It's getting a bit messy. I'll highlight these. Our expected value from this one over the long term is we expect to make, if we did this type of offer, we expect to make 36p every time we do it. What I tend to look for is, if I'm placing a £10 stake, I tend to want this to be sort of a minimum of £1 when I'm placing it, the expected value. So sort of 10% of the stake that I'm placing seems to be a good return. This next section here is depending on which teams win and which teams don't win, will give you a different, it shows you the different sort of profit range. So your qualifying loss, your expected profit, your qualifying loss could be £1.81, and you could make up to £6.19 profit from it. And then below it shows you the permutations. If all 4 teams win, we're going to lose £1.81 because we wouldn't get the refund. And then as long as one team loses, like there, and these 2 here, as long as one team loses, we get our money back as a free bet, and we make the profit, which is basically £8 minus the qualifying loss of 181 is the £6.19 profit we get on there. The power of this, which I'll scroll down, is, as I mentioned, with the Acca Finder, these are sort of quite prescribed. Here's an accumulator, here are the matches, here are the date and times that they're kicking off, and you can't actually sort of alter them on there. On here, for example, you may scroll down And what you'll tend to find, just where we've got this expected value at the top of 36p, you tend to sort of get better value into the piece if you have shorter odds on the accumulator. So we've got 1.5, 1.83, 1.8, and 2.45. So if I was to swap that Barrow one out again, Barrow's back again, 2.45, swap it out for slightly lower odds, probably find that this sort of pops up a little bit, the value at the top overall, because then the shorter the odds, the more chance the teams have of winning, and the more chance you've got of sort of missing out just by the one required. But what you can do is we can see all the teams listed here. If we go down this list, any of these teams which are in here will be ticked. So there you can see we've got Viskov versus Lynn, and we can keep scrolling down. We can see that's another one that's on the coupon. But all of these other ones, which you can see is quite a lengthy list, I won't go all the way down, but all these other ones with checkboxes next to the left-hand side of their names, those are other selections which you could switch out if you preferred. So for example, you may want to switch them out on the odds basis. You may want to switch them out because it's a football team which you don't really care for and you don't want to be putting money on them in any shape, way or form. People all have allegiances. Or, like I say, the time and dates may not work for you and you just want to adjust the time and dates to work better for you. Or perhaps you want to get the odds prices down. So let's just say that Barrow versus Leyton Orient at 3 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. That's the very last selection. If I scroll down there and find it, keep going, and a bit more. There we are. So we have Barrow versus Leyton Orient, and I could untick that. And let's not go too much further down. We then have Harrogate versus Scunthorpe, and the home odds for Harrogate. We can see it's a home selection and the odds are 1.61. Now, I've unticked Barrow and I've ticked Harrogate. And if I scroll back up, there's a couple of big red buttons we can click here, but I'm just going to use this one. So that button has now appeared saying update accumulator. This has also appeared up here saying update and turn to red. And it also says above it, usefully as well, it says unsaved changes, because I've obviously made changes. So I'm going to click the big update accumulator button. And what you'll see is this Barrow fixture will be replaced by Harrogate. So click update. And yeah, sure enough, Harrogate has gone into the slip. And the whole odds for the accumulator have come down. So I just scroll up and we can see that the expected value has increased. Not by a lot, but enough. We're getting slightly more value into the piece there. You would then follow the same process as we did on the Acca builder. Again, I won't go through all of this step by step, but first of all, make sure that you save it. So I've just clicked the save button. If you want to add anything extra to the text, do so. I'll just say webinar, for example. You can add whatever you want in there. Click save. From your my accas, you'll then have your list, and you can see I've got in there Sequential Acca webinar, and that's where you can follow it through again with the won and lost. So this now looks very similar to what we were looking at previously on the Acca Finder. We would have gone to the bookmaker, we would have placed our bets. So the first one is the away teams, Lynn. We would have popped them in Paddy Power. We would have popped them in the bet slip. We would have added Sao Paulo to the bet slip. We would have added Forest Green, because these are all home fixtures now. You'll find the vast majority of fixtures tend to be home fixtures, because these, vast majority tend to be favourites at home, so generally speaking. You'd have added these to the bet slip. You would make sure that the odds are correct as you're doing so, as you work down. And then you would go and lay that very first selection using the recommended lay stake. This one is at Betfair. If you click the link, it will take you through to Betfair. I'm just going to do it incognito, so I'm not logged into my actual Betfair, hopefully, giving away all my details. So you can see that's took me through to Betfair. There is Lynn, the lay odds 1.59, and the lay odds there 1.56. In fact, so that's quite a good example, because obviously I'm waffling along here, so lay odds can change. Once you've placed your bookmaker stake, if the lay odds do change, don't panic. Come back. So it's the lay odds are 1.59. Come back here, type 1.59 in there, and then you can update the calculations, and then this lay stake will change accordingly. So now instead of £8.22, we need to lay £8.06. So that's all we need to do is then pop that stake, place the bet, and that's us done with the first leg. And then once again, it's a case of, did Zlin win or did they not? So did they win? Did they lose? Hopefully they lose. And that's it. One leg has lost. You don't need to lay any further. And then hopefully the other 3 teams win and you get the free bet. So we'll just have a quick little, I'll have a quick little mouth refreshment. Excuse me. And then we'll have a look at a lay sequential lock-in. So this is a very, very powerful tool, a very profitable tool. And once you've sort of worked through the welcome offers using the lay sequential method, whether you use the Acca builder or the Acca finder, what most people and what I'd recommend is most people should then sort of gravitate towards having a go at lay sequential lock-ins, because not only does it increase your knowledge and understanding and give you more confidence in doing accumulator bet, but it's also going to increase your bottom line, increase your profitability, increase your bankroll, and yeah, help take you to the next level. And then later down the line, once you've increased all of those things and, you know, bankroll notwithstanding, that's when you can then look at going on to things like the lay at start or no lay accas, you know, later down the line. But to begin with, we've done sort of the good start, and now we're going to go into the sort of the better start. I'm not too fussed as to which one we choose. Let's have a look at this Unibet one. Unibet's a fairly sort of popular bookie. Let's have a quick look at that. If we open them again, because I've been talking, the odds can, will, and do change. So if you leave it sort of sat there for a little bit, you may get this screen. So just click to refresh. And it appears to be pretty similar to me. I think it's the lay odds that are just updated. So let's open that up. And in fact, that's because I've not changed my filters. I appear to have the Danish version coming through. Tell you what, we'll stick with the Paddy Power. We know where we are with Paddy Power on this example, and it keeps it nice and neat for us as well, because I'll pop these into the bet slip. I won't place the actual bet on this one, I don't think, because I've already just placed one as well. But if we look at the very first selection, we're going to see pretty much the same matches which we had earlier. Now, again, I said that this week is not particularly the Acca finder, the Acca builder is not particularly as chocker full as it will be next week, because next week when the Premier League and the German Bundesliga and Spanish La Liga, all of the top flights, you know, the French League and all these top flights are back, you will find much better odds and much more competitive odds, which lead to much more value and guaranteed profits within the accumulators. So the profits might not be quite as generous for today. I'm just going to have a quick look at all the Acca offers again, just to have a quick look at this one. Yeah, we'll stick with Paddy Power because it sort of ties in with the first. And yeah, let's go with this first one. So again, the rules are the same. The only thing we're going to do differently this time is down at the bottom, we've got obviously the different options. So lay sequential is the default. That's the one you're going to use most of all when you're starting out. We're going to skip over the lay at start. The lock-in method is what we're looking at now. It is, the full name is lay sequential lock-in. So if we click that, nothing much has changed up here. The only thing that's changed is sort of the staking. So it's in the background, in the back end, in the software. The mathematics change slightly. And what this now allows us to do is, no matter whether all 4 teams win or whether all 4 teams, well, do not win, or whether 3 win and 1 does, or 2 wins and 2 don't, then no matter what happens, we're going to make a guaranteed profit from this. And, you know, this Paddy Power one, you can do once per day, and loads of the other bookies, you can also do them once per day. Sometimes you can do them some of them are twice a week. Obviously, the terms are all listed, each one you look at. But I do know there are some people out there in the community who are pretty much primarily focusing on accas, you know, and just churning these out and sort of doing, well, fairly well from the result. It's different horses for different courses. Once you may get into this and absolutely love it, you may get into it and go, oh, it's not for me. That's fine. There's obviously other things to look at. But there is a great deal of profit to be had here. So let's work through it. So first of all, again, I'll just get the highlight tool on the screen. If it will come up for me. So make sure that the dates and times all work for you, because depending on the date and time of a kickoff, you need to make sure you're available. So for example, here, it's a little bit of a warning this on the Saturday, actually. So we've got a 3 p.m. kickoff on the Saturday. So that's going to finish probably around, let's say, 10 to 5, you know, so 4:45 really is when it's going to finish, because the second half is going to kick off at 4 p.m. 45 minutes for the half, plus any injury time. So maybe that's going to finish about 4:50. You've only then got 10 minutes before the next match kicks off. So this is where I'm on about the timings. You have to make sure that you're on the ball, because you may look at that and go, that's not for me, there's not enough time. That's fair enough, that's understandable. Make sure you're then onto a different match, basically, you know. And again, there's not much time between that one. So that's where you go back to the list and maybe find ones that are a little bit more spaced out, or perhaps you go to the Acca builder and, you know, work it through there, whichever works best for you. But yeah, make sure those dates and times are all sort of concrete. Yes, not a problem. Whether you write a post-it note, stick it on your monitor, whether you use the email reminder within the software itself, or whether you know, set a reminder on your calendar, whatever it is, whatever works for you, just make sure you know that, don't forget to lay the next match. So that's the preaching over, but it is important. Right then, onto this one. So we've got the first one is away. We've got Croatia away at Cyprus. Then we've got H for home and H for home. So we've got Barrow at home against Leyton Orient, and we've got Sweden at home against Kosovo, and then we've got Austria again away at the Faroe Islands. So then we would pop over to Paddy Power. We would add these selections to the bet slip. So let's just add them. I say I'm not going to actually place all of these. We've got Barrow again, which happened to be on that screen. Thank you very much. So there's Barrow. Let me just drag this across. Right, need to find the World Cup qualifiers. So I'm looking for Croatia away at 1.2. So World Cup qualifiers. Croatia away 1.2. We've got Sweden at home at 1.3. I'll find that. Sweden, there we are, 1.3. And finally, we have Austria away at the Faroe Islands at 1.22. Have I gone past them? Aha, there's a good point. So Austria away at the Faroe Islands is 1.2. So again, the odds may change, this is good to highlight. This is the point of a live example, really. So just change that to 1.2 because the back odds have changed. So I can just update the back odds now. All I need to do is type 1.2. Remember, that's the minimum for the offer. So we know we're okay. And then down at the bottom there, it's just popped up to say the Acca needs recalculating, click update. So there we go. And that's all done. The only other thing I'm going to do is see this drop down menu here for the exchanges. Again, just to help with the maths and keep it simpler, I'm going to stick with Smarkets just to get the 0% commission on that. So change to Smarket, and then that's all updated. Also, so here at Paddy Power, we would place our £10 accumulator stake. I don't know why they're limiting me on that one, a bit odd. But you would place your £10 accumulator stake, click place bets, and away you go. That's your bet placed on that one. Then you know that you've completed sort of the first section. So we know that we've selected all the correct teams. We know we've got the correct odds and everything is correct in here. We then need to go to the exchange and lay against the first selection, which in this case was Croatia versus Cyprus. So here we would have Croatia lay at 1.28, pop the stake in, which is £9.60. It gives us a liability of £2.69. So again, if I pop £9.60, we can see on the top right here, liability £2.69. Also down here, liability would become £2.69. Place the lay stake, and that's you done. That's your first match done. Tick the box to say you've laid it. Make sure you save the accumulator, and then that's it done. You can go away and get on with your day. You then need to keep an eye on that match and come back to it, and then depending on the result will depend on what we need to do next. So this is where it gets slightly different to the other one, because if you remember on the lay sequential, if the first selection loses, so let's just say that Croatia don't win at Cyprus. If first selection loses, then it's not told us to stop laying. It's basically gone straight down to the next line. That's the major difference in the practicality terms of the difference between lay sequential and lay sequential lock-in. So in a lay sequential accumulator, as soon as one team loses, you don't have to lay any more legs. You don't have to lay any more selections. That's you done on the exchange side of the bet. With a lay sequential lock-in, where we're locking in a profit, if a team loses, you still have to go and lay another match. And basically, on a lay sequential lock-in, you lay until either you get to the end of the accumulator or two teams loses. So if the first two teams don't win their match, so Croatia don't win, and then Barrow don't beat Leyton Orient at home, that's it. Two legs have lost, so you should stop laying. So as soon as two legs lose, you don't have to lay anymore. And it tells us that our profit is £1.33, which is great. I'll walk you through where's that profit come from. Let's have a look where the profits come from. So in this scenario, we staked £10 at the bookmaker, and both the teams have lost. So there's, we've lost that £10 cash at the bookie. However, at the exchange, we laid against Croatia winning. We said we put £9.60 against Croatia winning. So we said Croatia wouldn't win, and they didn't. So we win our stake less any commission, which is 0%. So plus 9, we won our £9.60 stake. Then we had to lay against Barrow, and we said Barrow wouldn't win, and Barrow didn't win. So we then win our lay stake again, less any commission, so plus 173. So we've made £1.33 guaranteed, and we don't do anything else now, and that's where that £1.33 has come from. Let's sort of undo this, unpick it, rewind it, and let's go through another scenario. Let's say Croatia win their match. Let's say Barrow win their match. So we, Croatia have won. So we then go to find the Barrow match, and we pop in Barrow Leyton Orient. And we've got the lay odds there, 2.58. The lay odds, see, 2.58. Always checking these things. Put the lay stake in, 9.45. It says the liability is 14.93. The liability is 14.93. Everything's ticking fine. We've done that. And then Barrow in their match. Then we'd go and find Sweden on Smarkets, and we would lay against Sweden. Make sure the lay odds are correct. Make sure you put the correct stake in. You'll be able to see the liability is the same. You tick it, you've done it. Sweden win the match. The same process. You go, you lay against Austria. Austria being the away team from this drop down. You would lay at the odds at the exchange. If the odds have changed, which because obviously there are, there's good 24 hours between all of these fixtures, so the lay odds are probably going to change at some point. So maybe those lay odds change. You just change the figure in there and update it. You make sure you put the correct lay stake in. You'll see what the liability is, and you then tick so you've done it. And then let's say Austria win their match. Okay, well in that scenario, we've got a slightly different profit. We've got £1.06. So once again, where has that profit come from? So in this scenario, at the bookmaker, we, and this might not come to the exact penny, but it'll be near enough. At the bookmaker, we backed £10 at odds of 4.59. So at the bookie, our return, if I can get this calculator to work, £10 times 4.59. It'll probably be a few pence different here or there, but like I say, it'll come back roughly to this amount. So our return at the bookmaker was £45.90. That includes the stake, so take the stake off. So we made a profit at the bookmaker of £35.90. However, at the exchange, we lost every bet. We said that Croatia wouldn't win, and they did win, so we lose the liability. So the first liability we lost is £2.69. So minus 269. We then said Barrow wouldn't win, they did win, so we lose the liability, minus 1493. We then said Sweden wouldn't win. They did, so minus 8.45. And finally, we said Austria wouldn't win, and they did, so minus £8.74. So overall, our profit comes to £1.09. Again, £1.06 on there. Let's not split hairs over 2 or 3 pence, but that's where the profit comes from. And it doesn't matter which way you split this. So the 2 scenarios I've shown you so far is where the first one where both of the legs lost, so therefore we don't get a free bet, but it's over and we made a profit. This is where all teams won, and we still haven't got a free bet, but we still made a profit. The only other sort of permutation, it doesn't matter which teams win and which teams don't win. If I undo this, let's say all the way pretty much back to the beginning, let's go down. Let's say that Barrow don't win their game, but we then need to go back. Then we would lay against Sweden, because it's telling us to. We're going line by line, until it comes on this screen as well and tells you you don't need to lay anymore. You just follow it line by line. If there's an option here giving you stakes and liabilities, then that's telling you you need to place another lay stake. So let's say we lay against Sweden and Sweden win their match. We then go to the final one. We lay against Austria and Austria win their match. Now in this scenario, we've still made a profit, which is good. We like a profit. However, this is the difference. It says at the bottom, the Acca is finished. Yeah, we reached the bottom of it. Profit's £1.22. This includes your free bet, which is worth around £8. So this is the only difference. This is where we still have to then go and use the free bet to make some extra cash. So for example, where's this profit of 122 come from? Let's work it through. So at the bookmaker, remember, when you place an accumulator bet, to make a profit of the bookmaker, you need all of the teams, all of the selections, they all need to win. So one of the teams lost. Barrow didn't win. They either drew or they got beat, but they didn't win. So at the bookmaker, we're £10 down. That's a minus £10. And then line by line, going down here, we laid against Croatia. We said Croatia wouldn't win, and they did. So we lose the liability of £2.69. We laid against Barrow. We said they wouldn't win, and we were correct. So we win our stake, less any commission, which is 0 because we're at Markets using the integration, plus £9.45 as our stake. And then the final 2, we lost both of those. We lose the £1.69 liability from Sweden, and we lose the £1.85 liability from the final match against Austria. So at that point, we've got a £6.78 loss. But because only one of the teams lost, Paddy Power then going to give us a £10 free bet, which we can then use to turn into roughly, the same way you've done with all the welcome offers, where you place a £10 bet and you back and lay it in the calculator, using sort of free bet mode, you'll make about £8 from that. So plus £8, £1.22. That's where the £1.22 profit comes from. And yeah, I hope that has been useful. I'm now going to sort of have a quick look through, see if we've got any questions that have come in on the text. I'll try and find where they are. And yeah, thanks very, very, very much for joining me. That's basically how to do lay sequential accas and lay sequential lock-in accas. If you did have a lay sequential Acca, if I just close this and get rid of the clear it down. If you did have a lay sequential Acca, perhaps you had a free bet that had to be used on a bookmaker. If I open one of these up, you would just use the free bet option there. And again, follow it line by line. As soon as it tells you not to place any more bets, you would just follow the instructions. But once you get used to the tool, like anything else in life, once you sort of start using something, you will become, more used to it, and it'll start to become second nature. But hopefully you can see the potential, especially when you can do sort of 7 per, 1 per day for the Paddy Power offer, and there's several other bookies doing a similar sort of vein. I'll get onto the Q&A in a moment. If that's been useful and you've not already signed up to Premium, then there's a good offer as well, which is if you use the code webinar offer 1, you can get 14 days premium access for just £1. Well worth a look if you've not sort of had a look on the inside of the premium side of things yet. So, within the premium side, as well as the Acca software and all the other software, you've got all these guides, the welcome offers. It's generally, I think, around sort of £900 to £1,000 of profit for you to work through every offer on this page. So that's how you can get the offer there. I'm just going to see if I've got any questions that have come in, Q&A, so just bear with me. So a question from Neil, who has asked me, with the late sequential lock-in method, can you use this to get a guaranteed profit for the insurance offers and the sort of qualifying Acca offers where you get a free bet afterwards? You don't need to do it for the, well, for the insurance offers. Yeah, that's the whole sort of premise for it, really. That's the sort of point of it. For the welcome offers, the sort of qualifying Acca offers, I think that's what you're referring to. Is you don't need to do that. Just do the late sequential, because you're going to get the free bet anyway. Because if you're doing a welcome offer that's an accumulator based one, you just do the late sequential because it's a bit more simpler, because as soon as one leg loses, you don't need to lay anymore, and you are guaranteed to get the free bet. No matter what happens, you're guaranteed to make a profit, so you don't need to try and factor in the sort of the lock-in on that, as it were. Hope that's answered that one for you. Question from an anonymous attendee. In what situations would you not do a lock-in? Good question. Again, it comes down to personal preference in a way. Now, the situations you may not want to is, not too sure. No, the situations you would not want to. If you're doing a late sequential lock-in, what you'll find is as you're going sort of along, I mean, if I can, I'm just working on another screen. I'll just try and get the Acca Finder software up and bring it back over onto the live screen to show you. And I'll get Paddy Power up because that's who we've been looking at. Just bear with me. Right. So what's an interesting little bit at the bottom here, because the odds, as I mentioned, the odds are sort of an indicator of the probability of a selection winning or not. You know, they indicate probability, and that forms part of the sort of mathematics in the background and all the rest of it. Down at the bottom here, with this range of odds, you know, not necessarily these particular teams, but when you've got odds in this sort of range here, you would expect all of the teams to win 19.2% of the time. You would expect three of them to win, but one of them to lose 45% of the time, and one or more, one plus, lose 5.8% of the time. Well, two or more, should I say. So 45% of the time you would expect to hit the free bet. So if you're churning out a lot of these, like, you know, you're doing, let's say 5 or 6 a week, Paddy Power, you're doing 5 or 6 a week somewhere else, and, you know, and so on and so forth, you could potentially end up in a position where you're doing 20, 30, 40 per week. Then as long as you're doing ones which have a positive expected value, you will, if you do enough, you know, enough of them, you're going to make a good profit. You're going to hit enough you can see by 45%, you're going to hit enough accumulators where only one team loses that you're going to hit free bets to make enough profits just from doing the late sequential method. However, you're not then having quite as much work to do, because as soon as one team loses, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. You know, you're on to the next one and on to the next one. Whereas if you were doing them all as lock-in, example, and you're trying to do 20, 30, 40 a week, well, that's then bringing you into the realm of, actually, yeah, they've lost, I need to go and lose again. It all depends on what fits your lifestyle. Let's say, you know, some people have got lots of time available to do this. Some people haven't got quite as much, so they want it a bit more manageable. So the least involved method, in terms of the examples which we've looked at today, the least involved methods are the late sequential or the late sequential lock-in, but the late sequential is the least involved out of the two. So that would be a reason why you would choose that over the lock-in each time. But again, it's entirely down to the individual. Gennaro has asked me, how many accas do you do per week? Probably about 20, I'd say, somewhere around there. Yeah, I've not actually done a sort of a account, as it were, but yeah, so somewhere around there. Question from Gary. He said that was very useful. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Can you let us know if you will do an advanced webinar? Yeah, I mean, if obviously OddsMonkey, if there's demand and OddsMonkey would like me to pull one of those together, then that's something that we can look at for later down the line. Sure. Make sure you stay on their email for that, or you can always bob them an email to request as well, I guess. But yeah. I can't say for certain. That's up to the powers that be. But yeah, I'll certainly entertain that. Simon says, seems a lot of work for an EV profit of £1 per Acca. Is it really worth the effort and the risk of forgetting a lay? Well, again, that's down to individual choice. What you need to sort of understand there is, yeah, people have different sort of, it's different strokes for different folks. So, you know, not every profit making opportunity is going to be the right fit for everybody. You know, for myself personally, as I mentioned, the different types of accumulators, I started off on lay sequential. It gives you a really good grounding of understanding how they work. And the lock-in method is the natural next step from there. Once you sort of get through those, then, and have a really sort of good understanding of the fundamentals, then let's say most of the, dare I say, sort of professionals, etc., tend to sort of go on to things like, if I can find it, accumulators, things like the no lay accumulators, whereby, as the name suggests, you don't actually place a lay bet. Well, again, that would be for an advanced one in the future, but that makes it super quick. And the profit EV still works out a similar amount, if not a little bit higher, because if you're doing it, if you're normally placing your lay stakes at an exchange where you're paying commission, then if you're suddenly not having to pay any lay stakes, then you're saving on commission. Obviously, the example I've done with Smarkets doesn't apply because there's already 0% commission there, but generally speaking, the no lay ones always worked out with a little bit better EV sort of over the years, but certainly better time wise. Again, it just depends on how much time a person has available. Once you're up and running with one of these, then it's not that. I mean, I've gone through it fairly slowly. You know, if I was popping over and placing these bets on penny power myself, I'm knocking them out pretty quickly. I'm knocking the lay bet out pretty quickly as well. Some people may decide, you know what, their match betting day is a Saturday and they're just glued to their computer all Saturday long. So it's perfectly possible to do one like this where you've got a match sort of Friday evening and then 3 matches on a Saturday, or even people that do like a 12 p.m. kickoff, a 3 p.m., 5 p.m. and then 7 p.m. and they can have a load of accas like that on a Saturday. So whilst they're in and amongst doing perhaps horse racing offers, other ones, you know, they know it after the 12 p.m. fixtures, before the 3 p.m. they need to check if they've got all the lay bets to place. After the 3 p.m. round of fixtures, they know they need to check for any 5, 6 o'clock ones, and then likewise for any sort of 7:45, 8 o'clock ones later on. So some people sort of tend to batch them like that. It is worth it. There's guaranteed profits. If you're starting out and building your bankroll and you want some guaranteed profits each week, then yeah, sure. It's down to the individual to decide if it's worth it for them. This particular example was a £10, you know, £10 free bet. If we go back to the Acca software, just to give you a bit more insight on that not all of the accumulator offers, you know, by the way, are £10. Some may be available in different places, but if we go into this one, depending, you know, if you can access it in your country, This is €50 and you can have 3 refunds per day. So let's do a lock-in on that one. You know, the lock-in on that one, we're looking to make about £12, and you can do that 3 times per day. So that's 36 quid just at one bookmaker. So, you know, is it worth it? I think so, but you need to find out whether it fits into your, you know, your own sort of strategy, really. I've got a question from, well, more of a statement, I think. I do apologise, I'll say your name probably wrong. I'm going to say Masiej. I said it's worth adding a graph on the OddsMonkey when using either of the 3 options. This is the most important part. The rest is technicality. I'm not. What you could do there is, if you want to put a proper, you know, a request into support@oddsmonkey.com, then they will sort of take any suggestions to the tech team from there. If you want to sort of expand on that a little bit more, perhaps you can expand a little bit more. But just to give you an example, when you open up, something I didn't show is down in the bottom right hand corner, just above the expected value and qualifying losses, depending on which method you've sort of chosen. So play sequential at the minute. If you put your mouse above this little table, it brings up the possible outcomes depending on which way. So that'd be the qualifying loss on a lock-in method, on a lay sequential, and then a lock-in method. It'd show you the different profits depending on whether the first, second, which team won in whichever order as well. Greg says very useful, thanks. Thank you very much. Just bear with me while I work through these. Quite a lot. Andy has a question. Can you do these on tennis? Yeah, depends on the bookmaker. Obviously, if the bookmaker's got, you know, the Paddy Power one applies across different sports. Now, the Acca software is a very good point. The Acca software is sort of searching primarily football. Well, football only as it happens. However, you can take the same logic, the same theory into other sports. So the Paddy Power offer, I think I'm correct in saying, I tend to stick to football. You are quite correct, though. I have done it on tennis myself. I'll just open this up. And yeah, the Paddy Power offer applies to all sports and all markets, excluding horse racing. That's the important caveat there. So it's not quite all sports, but yeah, they do it on American football, they do it on tennis, etc. If you are doing it on tennis, then you need to make sure that you are aware of the difference between some bookmakers, their rules on tennis betting as opposed to some of the exchanges, which can differ. If you go into the training, or if you go to the matches, actually the easiest way of finding it, and go to the tennis matcher, without going too much, this is the bit you need to read, the tennis retirement rules, because that will help you determine whether, again, I'm not going to go through all this right now, but you can see in a column which bookmakers have which rules. So all you're looking for really is Betfair are there, and Smarkets are there, and Betdac are there, and hopefully, yeah, Matchbook are there. So all 4 exchanges have the same rules as these bookmakers in this one set completed rule. So if you're doing an accumulator on tennis at any of these bookies, you're safe to lay at the exchange because the rules match. And basically that's if a player gets injured. Otherwise you can end up with a situation where you're out of pocket, so you need to be aware of that if you were to look at doing it on tennis as well, Andy. Are you better off doing a no lay was the second part of your question. Again, I tend to go towards no lay I do no lay for most of my accumulators, so that is something you could do. As to how you keep track of it, because it's not actually in the software, you could sort of either do it one or 2 ways, really. You could go to the calculators, and I do think if I'm correct. Down there, yeah, down the bottom, we've got a sequential lay calculator. So you can sort of give it a name in there, and you can add, oh, it's a, you know, a 3-fold, a 4-fold, etc., things like that. This comes to the question I had earlier from anonymous attendee asking, how can you calculate an underlay in an Acca? I believe at present you would have to do it in here using this option in the sequential lay calculator from the calculators menu. You can choose the underlay option in there and adjust as accordingly. Again, that's, you know, one for another day, a bit more advanced, but yeah, you'd have to use this sort of standalone calculator for that. Another way, Andy, of tracking the tennis would be to let's give that a refresh. Let's just open it up. Let's say we're on Paddy Power and you're doing it for tennis. Just come in here and you know, overwrite what you want to see. You know, we got Andy Murray versus Roger Federer. Choose who you want there. Make sure you've got the correct back and lay odds. Once, and you know, and change the times and dates of the kickoff, the sort of tennis match starts. And basically, once you've populated that, you could then save that as a tennis offer, and you know, you can then use that to track it along. Don't worry, you can just overwrite them with your tennis info. I know that OddsMonkey to add sort of extra sports has been requested in the past, so I'll make sure I pass that on anyway. And so, anonymous attendee, got a few of those. Says the lock-in seems better to me. What am I missing? You're not missing anything really. It tends to be better because you get a profit guaranteed every time, which people tend to like. It is a bit more involved because, as I sort of highlighted, if one of the legs loses, you still need to keep laying until another leg loses. So the chances are you can end up laying all the way down sort of the coupon until the coupon's finished quite often. However, you do get the guaranteed profit, so you just need to make sure that it fits in with your, you know, what you've got on that week, and that you're available to lay the matches if you need to lay the matches. Moving on to the next one. Are there any bookmakers that have a max bet bigger than £10? Seems like a lot of effort for relatively small return. Yeah, I just showed the Nordic bet one, you know, where it's sort of €50 and you can do that 3 times a day. Just have a work through the list and see, you know, see where you get to really. So, you know, see which one. So William Hill claim £20 per day. That's bigger than £10. That's just one that I've just chosen. I've chosen that for a reason, because I've got a question from Chris. So just had a look on lock-in. Currently, William Hill Insurance showing a profit of £2.33 to £3.29. Let's change that to lock-in. So I've put that over there. Yeah, we've got a profit range there, roughly of what we got. Minimum, well, basically minimum of £2.73 and a maximum of £3, whichever, you know, depending on which teams win and which teams lose. So yeah, that's, you can do that once per day, so that's £3 roughly per day just for William Hill. And is it risk-free? It's risk-free in terms of as long as you follow the rules set out. So you go to William Hill, you place all the bets, and then you place your lay stake, the correct lay stake against the correct team, and then you make sure that you update whether it won or lost, and then you follow the next lay stake and you update whether it won or lost, and then you do the next lay stake at the right odds and the right team. As long as you do that, then, you know, it's as risk-free it's going to get. I mean, there's always the element of human error. So if you went to lay against Croatia and you, I don't know, you either went to the wrong match or you laid against Cyprus at, you know, odds of 10 or something, you'd still be able to cancel out that bet, trade out of that bet at the exchange, and, you know, go again. But yeah, apart from human error, it's as risk-free as you're going to get, really. So yeah, the William Hill profit is correct. Let's have a look through. Another question, all along the same sort of theme in a way. So in the examples, the EV on the normal sequential was either 36p, 60p. On the lock-in, it seemed to be over £1 each time. Why would I not use the lock-in each time? Well, yeah. I'm just having a read that one. I'll come back to that. I'm not sure if my grey matter's not working. Just been asked that one. Gavin says, will there be one for the no lay and lay at start too? Again, I'll put that to OddsMonkey and we'll see with that one. So that's at least 2 of you have asked. If doing one per day, do all legs need to finish within a time frame? That's a very good question from Michael. Very good question, Michael. So in terms of that question, with Paddy Power, for example, what tends to matter is the date that the selections finish. So if you're placing an accumulator bet and the very last leg finishes on Friday, and then let's say you place another accumulator bet and the very last leg also finishes on Friday, and let's say you end up with 3 teams winning on one and 3 teams winning on the other. So on both of them, you would sort of go, oh, I'll qualify for a free bet. Well, you would only get 3 bet for one of them. So it's not so much the date that you place them. So you could effectively, on a Monday, for example, you could place 7 accumulator bets at Paddy Power, and you could have one that finished on a Monday, one that finished on a Tuesday, one that finished on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if the £10 sort of free bet came around for each one of those, you would get 7 £10 free bets because they all finish on a different day. So it's more about the day that they finish rather than the day you place them. Obviously, that can change for different bookmakers. So always make sure you have a look at the terms, and there's always a link to the terms as well. So we just want to make sure on that. But for example, Paddy Power is only a good place for people to start because it only has 4 selections rather than 5, which a lot of them have. So yeah, that's the way that those work, and that tends to be my experience with most of them, to be fair. Anonymous attendee, is there not a risk that your layouts could shift significantly in between selections? There's always a risk. What you'll find is if you're doing plenty of these, then it's very much a case of swings and roundabouts. If you're doing a lock-in method, I've never in all the time that I did a lock-in method, I had the sort of lay odds shift so much that I still didn't make a profit. I may have made a smaller profit from the Acca. However, a profit was still there to be had. Richard, yeah, I mean, basically, when sort of further on that point, most of the sort of teams, when you're doing these accumulator bets, most of them are strong favorites. You can see, for example, if I just open this, I need to refresh it. If I open this up, you can see all the odds here for backing the team. So they're all very, very low. So they're all very strong favorites. So actually, it's very rare because these are all internationals, but normally it would be, let's say for odds like the odds that are low like this, you might have Man City at home against Watford or something like that, and it's very, very rare that you're going to see the Man City odds drift like really significantly, unless half of the team went down with dysentery or something. It's like it's not really sort of a concern, as it were. So, and if they do, you'll find that the lay odds, don't always look on the negative side. You'll find sometimes the lay odds have come in because you are backing on. You tend to be backing the bigger teams at the weekends, Real Madrid's, Man City, Man United, Barcelona, Liverpool. You tend to be backing those sort of teams when the regular leagues are playing. So in the run-up to games, quite often quite a bit of money comes in and gets back to them, which pushes the price down. So quite often it goes in your favour. Richard says, I mean, I've just covered that one on Richard asked about the layouts drifting, so I've just covered that. But he also asked, I noticed a lot of the Accas are on obscure matches. Do you worry this will lead to a gubbing, or is it less noticed with Accas? Good question. I would tend to stick to the bigger leagues. You know, these international matches are fine. I've no issues, no qualms with that. For me personally, over the years, I've always tended to sort of stick with, you know, the Premier League, German Bundesliga, all the top flights, even the second, you know, the Championship, and even League One and League Two. Because for me, I'm in the UK, so for me to be placing bets on sort of teams in the UK on an accumulator is, you know, looks perfectly normal. And also throwing in sort of, you know, Bayern Munich's and Barcelona's, Real Madrid's. I mean, yeah, that's all sort of normal things to do. So I would normally stick to the bigger leagues. You know, if it comes up on the list and you've got a third division football in Kazakhstan, and the other option is I can have an accumulator with sort of a Premier League team, and I'm going to go for the Premier League team. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just a better way of appearing to the bookmaker. The reason you're going to see a lot of obscure ones at the minute is because we're on the international break. So yeah, they say that the Acca Finder and the Acca Builder are not quite as chock-a-block as they will be. If you log on to here next Thursday and have a look, you'll find that the expected values and the profits are significantly higher. Let me just get rid of that one. Andy's asking about Hills do something similar to Paddy Power, two £10 accas to get you £10 bet. Well, that's the one I've got here, which keep having to refresh, which is select to ensure your Acca up to 5 or more selections will refund your free stake up to £20. I mean, basically the same as Paddy Power, this one. I mean, I say £20 a day. The major difference is, one, it's £20 rather than £10. And the other difference is there are 5 legs rather than 4. I did 4 legs because it enabled me to get through the presentation as quick as possible. But yeah, it's the same. Once you know how to do the Paddy Power one, you know how to do the William Hill, or you know how to do pretty much anyone else on the list. It's all the same method. So once you've sort of got one bottomed out and you can do that and do it again, you just go through the rest. So Roger says, you mentioned Nordic Bet, but they are Norway only. Yes, they are. But we've got people attending this from all over Europe. So it's just a case in point that not everything is a £10 offer, which was the question that I had. So I was just showing that, no, they're not all. And said, I did say, depending on where you live, whether you can access it, then, you know, that was just a point on that. But this William Hill one is probably more accessible to you. And again, that just shows that one's also bigger. Bonus return is set at 80%. I seem to get 70 to 75%. What am I doing wrong? You're not necessarily, well, doing anything too wrong. If you want, you can adjust that percentage down, which will adjust the profitability of it. However, all that you need to do really is, if you're trying to get more from your free bets, if you go to the odds matcher, you know, and you've got a Paddy Power free bet, for example, let's choose Paddy Power from the drop down, and let's just give that a search. This column here, just click, you know, SNR percentage. That's the SNR percentage. So anything above 80% is where you can get more than £8 from your free bet. So if I were to do it on, let's just do not quite the biggest one, but if I do that one, I stick £10 in as my free bet. This is a free bet. I've got a Paddy Power. There you go. I'll make £8.40. So all you need to do is come onto the odds matcher and use the software, and you will, you know, get your £8 that you need. Hope that helps there. Can you back stake more than £10? Can you back a stake of more than £10 with these offers at the bookies? You could back a stake of more than £10, but your refund would be capped at the whatever that particular offer shows you. So on William Hill, your maximum refund on that will be 20. So it doesn't matter if you put a £200 stake in, you're still only going to get £20 back. So I'd recommend not going above the maximum refund, to be honest. And will the lock-in generate a profit for the 365 Acca? It doesn't tend to too often, to be honest. No, not today. So that's one you just need to keep an eye on. Sometimes it does, but not too often, unfortunately. Yeah, the Bet365 is a bonus if all of your teams win, if I remember correctly. It's not one that I look at very often because, yeah, it doesn't tend to sort of bring a profit into the software. It will do if they improve their offering slightly. However, I imagine that they are sort of right on the line of between giving us value. So yeah, sorry about that, Ray. Doesn't tend to. Chris, as I said, that mentioned that Paddy Power free bet is when the last leg finishes. I've read in Hill's terms that 3 bets credited up to 2 hours after the final leg. That means the same as Paddy Power. Yeah, the William Hill was the same as Paddy Power in my experience as well. Yeah, they tend to be on the date that the Acca finishes rather than the date you place the bet. Hello, Russell. Yeah, no problem, Mr. Anonymous. And John has asked, some bookies offer an odds boost rather than a free bet. This could be built into each leg, maybe to ensure profit by leg, where odds at the exchange is better than the boosted odds. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's actually, again, it's probably one for a bit more of an advanced one. That may fall in line of something along here, John. If you have a little play around with this, and there's a guide to go along with it, but on the calculators, the win bonus, they tend to help in there. And yeah, it might fall in line with there. I'm not too sure how much we can actually do of that in the calculator, because if I go to the Acca builder, let's look at the lock-in. So the only one I can see in there at the minute, we've got Bet365, which, yeah, it's not quite bringing a selection in, but you can see the bonus depends on how many teams are involved. Yeah, that's not what I'm going to be able to get into the nitty gritty of today, but I would say have a look at the win bonus calculator, see if you can work it out with that, or come into the Acca builder and add something like Bet365, and then you know, if you add some more teams, for example, to get up to the prerequisite number that you're after, because all this is sort of, you know, you can all be played around with. So you can then come in here and update information and have a play around to get an idea of the level of the odds and etc. that you'd need to get it to quite work. Give that an update until eventually you're kind of finding what you need. I mean, the software will bring you back profitable option if and as and when it arrives, as and when it exists in the bookie versus the exchange odds. But that's about it. Roger has asked, can I exclude bookies from the results on the finder? Pretty sure you can. So if you go to filter on here, then you've got all these accas. So we want to get rid of Nordic bet because, as you know, you're not in Norway and you've no intention of going to Norway, moving to Norway. So if we get rid of Nordic bet there and I apply that, then Nordic bet now disappeared. And that's it. So it's not on the list. And if I go back in and if I clear those filters, Nordic bet is back. So yeah, you can exclude that. So I hope that helps, Roger. Just finally, I'm just going to have a quick look at the other quick last couple of questions, hopefully. So in the examples, EV, just going to read this quickly in my head. It's quite a large one, which is why I left it to the end. I'm sorry if that was you, Russell. In the examples, EV was, well, do not use a lock-in each time, and yeah, just let me So Russell's basically asking the difference between the EV and on the sequential and the lock-in. Just had a little clarification there. What I'm trying to ask is, when you show all combos, does it give an equal weighting? I don't know the exact answer to that, to be honest. I don't think it's showing. I don't think it's necessarily an equal weighting on there, and I believe that the actual maths is a very closely guarded secret. But I believe that if I open up this Paddy Power example, because that's one we start with. If I go to the little possible outcomes here, and we've got the different. In fact, if I change it to lock-in, and we go to the different outcomes, so we've got the different, if all 4 teams win, that would be our profit. If the third team loses, I think it's more to do, I mean, they're all very sort of minor changes, really, most of them, apart from that one there, and that just having a quick look at that. I mean, what's going to affect the profitability is a couple of things. There's the Betfair option on this one, for example, is there's commission involved in there, which goes into it. But I don't think they're equally weighted. I think the possible outcomes are weighted they're all based on the lay odds rather than the back odds, and these are given the true indication. Or they always say that the exchange odds are more like the closest thing we can get to sort of the true odds, the proper sort of definition of whether an event has a chance of winning or succeeding. So the calculations sort of tend to work off the lay odds, as far as I'm aware, and well, fairly certain on that. And based on that these are all an indicator of how likely a team is to win or to lose, and based on that sort of goes through into there. On the Acca builder itself, if I find a lay sequential lock-in, and we'll do Paddy Power. It's not actually showing it on this one. I do apologize, just bear with me. I may have been in the right place in the first time. I know what I'm looking for, it's just that I've not. This is sort of delving onto the advanced a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, this is down the bottom is showing again the percentages. Yeah, I can't say with 100% certainty whether it's equally weighted or not. You would have to quiz OddsMonkey on that one to get the specifics. I've done quite a bit of work on calculating the Acca odds myself in the past with a few little spreadsheets and stuff, and I can never get quite back to how they do it. But it's certainly, whichever way it goes, it certainly works out all right. Hope that's of some sort of use. What is expected value? How is it calculated? That is a question from Ray. Expected value is effectively sort of the profit we would expect to make from an offer, and how it's calculated again is based, kind of what I was just saying, it's based on the probability of all the teams winning or all the teams losing, or whether one wins and one loses and 3 wins, and vice versa. So we kind of look at all of these things with a long-term vision, as it were, and you would expect all the teams to win X% of the time. You would expect all of them to lose X% of the time, and where one loses, we would expect to get the free bet. So yeah, that's something. I think if we do an advanced one, I mean, what I've done this before actually for people, and yeah, it's probably take me a little while to just get into that, but essentially you would look at the qualifying losses, and let's just say you were going to do 100 of them. You would say, right, well, 36% of the time. So if I did 36, attempts out of 100, 36 of those 100 attempts, I would lose £2.05. 44, or let's say, you know, whether you call it 44.9, I'd call that 45 times out of 100. I would expect to make the profit of whatever the profit comes out at, which would be £10 less the qualifying loss. And then the rest of the time, where all win, you would also 19 times out of 100, you would also lose the qualifying loss. But if you take that 19 plus 36, so you got 55, 50 times out of 100 attempts, you would lose that amount. And then the rest of the time you would make, what was it, about £8, for example, or £7.95, the other 45 times. If you multiply those by each other, roughly, times £7.95. So over 100 attempts, you would make a profit using the free bets, about £357. And then the other 55 times £2.5, you would lose £112.75. This isn't exact, there's a bit more to it, but that's generally the gist of where we're getting from. So on average, you would expect to make a profit of £245. I'm trying to rush that there because I need to wrap up, unfortunately, but that's generally the gist of it. And we would get back to roughly within a smidge of that figure. Anyway, I do hope that's been of use. Thanks for all of those that have remained on. And yeah, if there's any more questions, do drop them to support@oddsmonkey.com, and I'm sure I'll be able to help you on there. If you're not inside OddsMonkey in the premium just yet, thanks for all the questions, everybody. Sorry if that's not quite into enough detail on there, Russell. I do need to sort of get this wrapped up and can help you out later on. It's not an issue. If you haven't got in OddsMonkey yet, get to webinar offer 1. You get premium access 14 days for £1. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on board, and I shall see you on the next webinar, whenever that may be. Keep an eye on your inboxes and we'll get it shared with you there. All right, everybody take care, and I'll see you soon.